So I'm making this video because I'm 22 years old, living with my parents, and realizing that a lot of the shit I've gone through is a lie. So it all starts out with what is the lie, right? So we all have gone to school. We were told go get a good education, go get good grades, make sure you listen, get a job, buy a house, start a family, and you'll live happily ever after. However, we all know that this reality is not really a reality for many of us anymore. This may have worked in the 1900s or the 1950s, but in today's world, it's not the case at all. With advances like AI and just needing to understand entrepreneurial skills, I personally feel as though a lot of these things were lacked and were not really taught in school. Where the school system is really set up for you to be obedient, for you to push away from failing and not really seeking creative solutions other than one right answer, as if 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that was the only answer, and there was no other way to get to 4. It was only from 2 plus 2. And so I'm making this video in particular to really push the boundaries on why many people like myself are now starting to wake up, if not already are awake to the situation that is what a lot of people my age are facing. We know that right now in 2026, the job market is not the greatest. The economy is not the greatest, regardless of what they say in the mass media and the news. We understand that it's all just fucked, honestly. We really have come to realize that we can't depend on somebody else to offer us a safe, secure job and for us to live on it anymore. You could get a college education today, and what it was valued now versus 50 years ago is not the same. There's so many people now who have access to an education, have access to getting a degree. So the market is saturated. However, the opportunity to contribute and add value to the society that we live in is still there. However, the manner in which school has taught us to achieve that is through somebody else telling us how to do it instead of going out ourselves and seeking that. And those are a lot of things that school really lacked in teaching us. They really lacked in teaching us how to collaborate with one another on projects, being more autonomous in regards to taking control of the project itself, teaching us how to be more persuasive, being able to have creative control over our own lives in doing things that we want to do or things that we're passionate about. And now we're left with the bill. At 22 years old, we're all left with the bill. Or if you're older, you're also left with the bill. So the bill is the bill of your ignorance. You're basically now having to teach yourself and learn everything that school has failed to teach you. And this ignorance is the ignorance tax, as I like to call it, is what is preventing you from succeeding or doing the things that you wish you could be doing, or quote unquote living your dream life. I understand that United States is built on having the American dream or living the American dream, and by no means do I believe that the American dream is gone at all. I think the American dream still very much exists, and there's still a lot of opportunity for us. I'm not here to cause a pessimistic type of perspective on the world. I think there's still a lot of opportunity available, and I think that a lot of people can still do a lot of great things. However, there are little gaps in between the knowledges and in between the knowledge that we have, whether taught from school or taught from parents, that have not transpired exactly to being applicable to real life scenarios. So the notion that we can go get a job, be safe, have a nice house, have a livable wage is no longer the reality in 2026. We have to There we go. We have to now recognize the fact that we have to go and be more entrepreneurial. And I'm not here to say that AI is going to completely take over our lives either. I don't think so. I think AI is a fantastic tool that can be used and leveraged, in fact, to actually make the journey that we want to be achieving our dream lives much faster. And that's, I think, is an amazing thing. However, there's a lot of nuances that many people fail to see or are not self-aware of or have not experienced in order to really push the boundaries into where they want to be and where they want to live. For me personally, I've noticed that as soon as I graduated college, like this breath of fresh air has almost come into my life, but also a massive realization that no one is coming to save me has also come within the breath of fresh air, if you will. So having that in the back of your mind, knowing that no one is coming to save you, and that everything that you want to be done has to be done through you, and it's going to be done through a lot of trial and error, a lot of attempts, a lot of just going out into the world and figuring it out, which ties back to school's system having not really teaching you that, but rather putting you in a room with a bunch of other individuals who, for better lack of term, had no idea what they were getting themselves into or were told to be there, and had a lack of agency. So, and when you're put in that room and just told to stare at a screen and just learn, you have to start to question, well, why are we learning this? What is the point of learning this? Where will this take us? And if you notice, a lot of people, the way how a child acts versus the way how an adult acts is completely different. And you can even sense it within oneself. The way someone will, the average person will see a child, it will bring you joy, it will light you up, it will inspire your soul to see a child so innocent, so free, to be able to go out into this world and do and just be one with the world. But as adults, we've been so programmed, we've been so taught to be a certain thing, to acclaim or to become a certain identity, whether by our will or against our will, with our knowledge or without our knowledge. And whether that identity is truly you or who you assume is yourself is really the question that we should be asking ourselves. So upon reflection in my own life, seeing how I am and seeing where I am, I've definitely grown, but there's a lot to go along in this journey, the 1,000-step journey, right? And a lot of life, I don't think, is necessarily learning more. I think it's actually a lot of life is unlearning, right? There's a lot of things we've been taught, a lot of psychological barriers, a lot of mental barriers that we've put up without our own knowing or without even our own free will in doing so. So as you go out through this world trying to achieve your goals, you start to realize that. But I think the most beautiful thing about it is with school, from your ages, from basically as soon as you're born to 18 is when you're most moldable, and that's exactly when they throw you in the system. And so your brain is almost molded to that system, and it becomes very hard to unlearn those things, which is why many people think they must learn more, they must do more. Instead, they must do less of the things that oppose where their goals are. And they must unlearn the things that are preventing them from achieving their goals, or the mental barriers that are preventing them from achieving their goals. And so it's really important to be able to be self-aware and to be able to look at yourself and be like, is this the direction where I want my life to be? Because as I sit here and think about it, how many original thoughts have you ever had? I know somebody, historical, once said, I don't remember particularly the name, but I know somebody once said, No man has ever had an original thought. And so when you sit there and think about that, you must sit there and think, where do my thoughts, where do my beliefs, where does my direction of life really come from? My parents, society, close friends, other authority figures? Are these people really living the life I want to live? And if not, why do I continue to listen? And so as I ponder on, and I'm sure as you ponder on as well, you start to sit there and think, what is it that I'm really doing? And so by continuing on your journey and realizing that a lot of what you were taught and learned doesn't apply now. The landscape of the future is ever changing, especially now with technology such as AI, with the internet. What was taught, everything has been innovated. Every industry has seen innovation massively. The only industry that I can think of that has not really changed, if you look at it, and you can even look this up on Google Images, is the classroom. The classroom today is nearly identical to the classroom 100 years ago. Whether this is on purpose, not on purpose, I'll leave that up to you to decide. However, it is imperative that you realize and start to wake up to whether or not the direction of your life is where it wants to be. So I can sit here and tell you all these things, and you can sit here and listen to all these things, but you have to really ask yourself, am I living the life I want to live? And if not, you have to take a mirror, take a notebook, and either look at yourself or sit with yourself in silence and figure out why not. So what I've learned by graduating, having my degree, is that no one's coming to save you. The shit that they taught you in school, some applicable, some not, depends what career path you want to take. But for me personally, it's not for me. A lot of the education that I was taught was never really useful as of now, and I've just had to go out on my own and sort of figure it out. And I think that's the true journey, and that's the true beauty of life, because I personally believe everything happens for a reason. I think God puts you on a path and makes you do certain things or have certain things happen in your life in order for you to sit there, reflect, and learn. And so as I sit here, 22 years old, in my parents' house, with little almost to no money, I have to question everything that has been happening in my life and why it is the way it is. And so I encourage you guys to do the same. I encourage you to wake up to why they've lied to us or why none of the things we've been taught is applicable. And I encourage you to go mastermind with either your friends who think similarly or people you know who think similarly and are wanting to wake up from what was once the reality but no longer is. So those are my thoughts for today. I encourage you to come back, subscribe to the channel, as I will be here every day talking about different topics, discussing the realities of life and how I have personally come to acknowledge them or how I am personally overcoming them. And so feel free to comment what you believe feel free to comment what videos you guys would like to see next, what topics you would like to see discussed next, and we will get through this together and we will surpass. If there's anything that is known throughout history, it's that if there is a will, there is a way. So I leave you guys with that message, and I'll see you next time.